Yeah, so she's on this picture.
Alright, on number 1. It says we've got a box with no top that we're going to make out of a piece of cardboard. So, can you draw me a rectangle here for my piece of cardboard? Alright, it says that our cardboard width is X centimeters, so this is X, and its length is 6 more than the width, so X plus 6. Okay, then to fold this piece of cardboard up to make it a box, we're going to cut some pieces out of the corner. So out of every corner, we're going to cut out, I think it's a 3 by 3. Yep, 3 by 3 out of every corner. Okay, so that means those lengths and widths aren't going to be the same dimensions anymore. This was X, but I just took 3 off of that end and 3 off of that end. So now this is X minus 6, because I took 3 off and 3 off for 6 off, right?
Right.
So this one that was X plus 6, I took 3 off and 3 off. So it's just X now. Right? 6 minus 3 minus 3 is nothing, so it's just X. So to find the volume, it's length times width times height. So we've got our length and our width. Our height is going to be how high we fold those edges up. So they're 3. I'll put the 3 in the front. Okay, it tells us that the volume of the box is 48 centimeters cubed, so we set that equal to 48. So we've got 3x squared minus 18x equals 48. And we're trying to solve this for x. I moved 48 over, so I had 3x squared minus 18x minus 48. Then I divided the whole thing by 3. 3 will go evenly into all that. It didn't have to, but it made my numbers easier to work with. That got me x squared minus 6x minus 16. And now that was factorable, because a times c, the factors of negative 16 that add to negative 6 were negative 8 and 2. So I had x minus 8 times x plus 2 equals 0. So you set those equal to 0 to solve. X minus 8 equals 0. Gets you x is 8. I didn't have to set this one equal to 0, because that's going to get me a negative, and I can't have any negative dimensions on a box. So the question says, what are the dimensions of the piece of cardboard? Well, that length would be 8. So the width would be 8 minus 6, which would be 2. So, no, I got to go back to the original piece of cardboard, don't I? That's what it was. The original piece of cardboard had an 8 and then an 8 plus 6. So it would be 14 and 8, because it says the dimensions of the cardboard, not the box. So back to those original dimensions. Here was 8, and here was 8 plus 6, so 8 and 14. Everybody good on that? See. Alright, number 2 was a sum of cubes. Anyway, once you got 8, there was only one of them that had that. Sum of cubes on number 2. In y'all's classes, Algebra 3 and in Algebra 2, sum and difference of cubes is what everybody's forgetting most often. Algebra 2's been doing along the same kind of stuff as y'all. I'm going to change that to an x. 8x cubed plus 1. Cube root of 8x, cube root of 8 is 2, and the cube root of x cubed is x. So there's going to be my a. My b, the cube root of 1 is 1. Need to have those patterns for sum and difference of cubes down. My pattern for sum of cubes says a plus b times a squared. So when we square 2x, remember you got to square the 2 and the x. So it'd be 4x squared minus a times b, 2x times 1, plus b squared, 1 squared. That's it. Which would be a. 3, 4, and 5 all are under the heading of factor by grouping. There were lots of grouping ones, weren't there, Louise? Got that one? Alright, so 6m plus 6a minus m squared minus ma. Alright, so we need to factor by grouping. So I'm looking here, my first group would have a GCF of 6. If I divide them both by 6, that leaves me with an m plus a. I need to be able to get an m plus a out of this group, so what would I need to take out of it? Negative m, nice job, leaves me with an m plus a. So now we've got m plus a twice, and we took out a 6 minus an m, which would be D. Alrighty, number 4. I got what you need on that one? Number 4, I got m squared s minus m squared t minus xs plus xt. Some weird variables in this. Still under the factoring by grouping category, so you group those things up. They were nice to you. You didn't have to rearrange any, so that was at least good. M squared would be the GCF of this group. That'll leave you with s minus t. What would the GCF of this group be? Good, negative x. That leaves you with s minus t. So we've got s minus t and m squared minus x, which will correct this B. Alright, we got another grouping on number 5. Everybody doing alright? Boy, Mr. Watney. Got x cubed plus 4x squared plus 3x plus 12. Still under the factoring by grouping, so go ahead and drop your old parentheses there. X squared, right? First group, x squared is the GCF. That leaves you with x plus 4. Finally got a number here. What's the GCF? 3. Good. By 3, that leaves you with x plus 4. So you got x plus 4. And x squared plus 3. Which was C. Alright, moving on. Number 6. Finally got some new directions. Factor the trinomial completely. It says 9x squared plus 24x plus 16. Alright, still got to ask ourselves, is there a GCF? 9 or 3 won't go into 16, so there's no GCF, so can't do that. So then your options are, you can do the A times C thing. I didn't do that. I normally would, but I think I started to, and I saw 9 times 16 was a pretty big number, and I didn't want to list all the factors of it. So what I noticed on it is that 9's a perfect square and 16's a perfect square, so I checked to see if it could be a perfect square trinomial. If I took the square root of this, 3, times the square root of that, 4, 3 times 4 is 12, right? It's a perfect square trinomial if that's half of the B. Is 12 half of 24?
Yes.
Yep, so all I had to do was 3x, take your first sign, squared. Save me a little bit of time, which would be B. Did you do the A times C thing, Penny? Yeah. What, that, yeah? Grouping, yep. Yep. Katie did it with the grouping, the A times C grouping, and was able to get it. And also don't forget that you've got the right answer in one of the choices. When all else fails, fold the choices and see which one gets you back there. Nothing wrong with that.
That's what they're all of them.
Nothing wrong with that. As long as you got multiple choice, and probably every test you'll take from here on out will be multiple choice. ACT stuff. I don't know about college, but. Alright, 7. I had a lot of questions on 7. It says decide if the expression is factored. Can you do anything more to 7? Can you take anything out? Can you rewrite it anyway?
No, it's not even factored.
It is factored. A, yes, good job. Alright, 8. I did the same way that I did 6. Let's look at 8. It's got 121 m to the 6th plus
Squared.
198
11
m cubed plus 81. Good. Austin's checking out what I said earlier. 11 times 9 is 99. Is 99 half of 198?
Yes.
Yep. So that would get you 11. Now, what about m to the 6th? How does that break down? Good, because you would have to be, when you multiply, you add. So m to the 3rd times m to the 3rd would make that m to the 6th. And that would be it. Which was B. I don't know, did he make pick C? I don't know what you would do to pick C.
Yeah, I don't know where that came from. I think we just like flipped it.
No, all I did was add a 100 to
81 went to 198. Right, number 9. Niner, niner.
Oh, this was
YW plus W plus Y plus 1. That's some crazy variables. Factor by grouping. So you group those dudes up. W would be the GCF of this first group. Agreed? Take a W out. YW divided by W is Y. W divided by W is 1. Now, I already have Y plus 1 over here. And there's nothing I can take out, but I still have to take something out anyway. 1, very good. So that won't change it. So we've got Y plus 1 and W plus 1.
C.
See?
C.
See, page 2.
We got C. Oh, Tuesday.
It's already Tuesday. Austin, you're going to have to be more, have a better outlook on things.
Just saying.
This
Next
week's
week
gonna
we're
be so
out of
slow.
school.
This time next week,
We're out of
I
school.
may still be asleep.
I
Just saying.
will still be asleep.
Oh,
We're out
I'll
of
be-
school next week. That's it, break.
Like, we're out of school in the morning.
Just think the days are
Last year was the first year we did all.
Really?
Yeah.
Like 6 hours in school last year.
Oh, you miss it. That's right.
Hey, but I can just stay at home all the time.
Yeah.
And like, it was cool because if I needed to go to like the store, I could go.
Yeah.
But I wanted to come back for my senior year, so I didn't have to go.
All right, on 10. Shh. Y'all simmer down. On 10, it says factor the trinomial completely. First off, you need to notice there's a GCF, and you could have gotten that idea by looking at the choices. All the choices but D show us a GCF. A and C have got 4Z squared. B has got 4. Which one of those is my GCF?
4Z squared.
4Z squared. Good job. So we're going to divide by 4Z squared. 32 divided by 4 is 8. Z to the 6 divided by Z squared. You just subtract on those. It'll be Z to the 4th. 8 divided by 4 is 2. Z to the 4th divided by Z squared is Z squared. Negative 60 divided by 4 is negative 15. Okay, so that's what we're looking at there. Alright, so not choice, so that trinomial must go farther. I know it's not a perfect square one because 8 and 15 aren't perfect squares, so I'm doing my A times C stuff. 8 times negative 15 got me negative 120. Factors negative 120 that added to 2. At least those were easy ones to get. Good. 12 and negative 10. Somebody, 6th period yesterday, was asking me, I think it was Alex, the foreign exchange student board, he was asking me which order I needed to put them in here. This one, it's not going to matter. It'll work either way. I look at 12, and 12 has something in common with both 8 and 15. 10 has something in common with both 8 and 15. If 12 only had something in common with 8, I would make sure to put it next to the 8. I'd put them by their buddies, but it'll work either way on this, so I'm just going to put them in the order I wrote them. 8z to the 4th. Now these are going to be z squareds because I'm taking out the 2z squared plus 12z squared minus 10z squared minus 15. And then it's grouping. Oh, I've got the squared off there when I
We'll
grouped
circle
that.
it. We'll go okay.
But I made it worse. Alright, so 4z squared. Is that right? Is that my GCF?
Yeah.
Alright, since I scribbled on that z squared, I can't read it. 8 divided by 4 is 2. Z to the 4th divided by z squared is z squared plus 3. Alright, what would my GCF over here be? -5. So that gets me 2z squared plus 3. So we got 2z squared plus 3. We got 4z squared minus 5. And don't forget that 4z squared we took out in the beginning.
C.
C is correct.
C as in
Some funny colors over there. So y'all are some funny colors over there.
C's.
Alright, 11's a little bit tricky, but it's easy. And those are the kind that aggravate me when they're so easy they trick me a little bit. I got, whoops, wrong button. There we go. I got w squared plus 14w plus 49 minus z squared. Alright, there's 4 terms. There's no GCF. There's 4 terms, so people automatically start looking at grouping. But when you do that, you're not going to have, like, here your GCF, this first group would be W, so you have W plus 14. There's no G1s, you're only GCF here. So you can't group them that way. Okay, what they want you to notice is that this part will factor real nice. So let's take care of that first. And then you can get a negative z squared by multiplying a positive z and a negative z. So we can just stick a positive z and a negative z into our factor of that trinomial. Okay, so a times c is 49. Factors 49 that add to 14 are 7. So you're going to... Perfect square trinomial, yes. Yes. So you're going to have w plus 7. I'm actually going to write it... Not w plus w, w. I'm actually going to write it twice, though, this time, badly, because I got to put a negative z and a positive z in with them. But what she said is correct. That part I underline is a perfect square trinomial. That'd be it. Which was A.
So a perfect square trinomial is where the c is a perfect square and it's half of
The A is perfect square. And when you multiply the square root of A times the square root of C, it's half of B. So like this would be 1 times 7, and that's half of 14.
So what if that was plus?
Then we wouldn't be able to factor it. No? Yeah, you could. You could have a plus C and a plus C. Yeah, you could. I'm dumb.
Well, what would they do at the end? So
Did-
it would just be 2.
They would both have a plus Z. Alright, I thought number 12 was a silly problem. A farmer has 220 meters of fencing that he wants to enclose a rectangle area of 3,000 square meters. What dimensions should he use? So the 220 meters of fence that he has, that's got to be what the perimeter equals. Because add up all the way around and put your fence down. And then the area is what he's enclosing, the 3,000 square meters. So I just went through those dimensions and saw which dimensions would make that. So in choice A, it's a 60 by 50. If I did 60 times 50, I know 6 times 5 is 30. Add your zeros, that works. Here, if I added up to get the perimeter, 60 plus 60 is 120. Plus 50 is 220. So it was A, 60 and 50.
Okay, honestly, I thought I got that wrong.
Because that all the one equals 3,002
Which
for
she
the
said.
Yeah, but you have to add.
We're gonna do that.
Because we haven't done anything like that since like a long.
Yeah, that's why I said it was a silly one.
So I was like, okay, it's the triple.
I realized I did like this with, and I was like, I'm gonna look up the area of this rectangle because it's the same.
Alright, number 13. Area of the rectangle shown is 20x squared plus 37x plus 8. The width is 4x plus 1. What is the length? So if area is equal to length times width, and we're trying to solve for length, you would divide by width. So it's a division problem is what they're intending for you to do. Now you could have took 4x plus 1 and foiled it with the choices and worked backwards, but I'm going to go ahead and do the long division for you. I'm dividing by 4x plus 1. The area was 20x squared plus 37x plus 8. So we say 4x times what gets us 20x squared? 5x. Now we distribute 5x to both of those. 5x times 4x is 20x squared. 5x times 1 is 5x. Subtract. 20x squared minus 20x squared is nothing. 37x minus 5x is 32x. Bring down your plus 8. And we got to go one more round on this one. 4x times what is 32x? 8. So we got a plus 8 up there. Distribute that. 8 times 4x is 32x, and 8 times 1 is 8. Nothing left over, so there is your length.
Okay, I did it a different way, but I got that.
What'd you do?
I did like cooking with that.
Factored it in, yeah. Don't worry, yeah. Because you already had one of the factors, so then you just chose the other one. Good. But you using your brain every now and then.
I can be smart sometimes. I'm not. I don't know. We're cooking the
What do you do again when you do like something left over?
If we'd have had, let's say we'd had a 10 left over here, we would have said plus 10 over what we divided by. Good question, Sir Pugh. All right, we ready for 14? 14. Okay, it says 3m times 4 minus m plus 8n times 4 minus m. Had a lot of questions on this one in 6. Why did I write an 8? Had a lot of questions on this one in 6th period yesterday.
You were thinking ahead, you're right.
Yeah, so
I do that all the time.
it says factor out the greatest common factor, simplify it possible. That it's like they've already started the grouping process for you. So they've already done the work. So now you're to the part where you say, well, we got 4 minus m twice, and we're left with 3m plus 8n. That's it.
I like
That was B. They put them in a different order, but that's okay. Okay, 15. I got what you need. 15, I've got 40 z to the 8th minus 14 z to the 5th minus 12 z squared. Alright, what's my GCF going to be? 2z squared. 40 divided by 2 is 20. Z to the 8th divided by z squared is z to the 6. Negative 14 divided by 2 is negative 7. Z to the 5th divided by z squared is z cubed. And negative 12 divided by 2 is negative 6. Alright. A times C on that, because it's not perfect square stuff, would be negative 120. Factors of negative 120 that add to negative 7, and I actually struggled and listed them all on my paper, but I finally found it, and it was 8 and negative 15. It took me a while. Usually I can see them real quick, but that one was hiding from me. Alright, 8 and negative 15, they both have stuff in common with 20 and 6, so your order's probably not going to matter. Just put them in order. I wrote them 20z to the 6th plus 8z cubed minus 15z cubed minus 6. Group those suckers up. Now I had a 4z cubed there in common. 20 divided by 4 is 5. Z6 divided by z cubed is z cubed plus 2. Alright, this one will be negative 3. That'll give me 5z cubed plus 2. So we had 5z cubed plus 2. We took out 4z cubed minus 3. And we took out 2z squared a long time ago. There you go. Which was B. Bad to the bone. little sister teaches there. So she sends, every time they put new schedules in the bookstore, she sends them to me.
I was wondering why you had Wednesday, but I just never asked.
I thought I told y'all that.
What was that number? You didn't tell us that.
She has a PhD in aerospace engineering. She's like literally a rocket scientist, the smartest person I know. That's wrong.
She's a rocket scientist.
I remember you telling us she was a rocket scientist, but I didn't know why you had all that.
She goes, well, she doesn't go to all, I mean, like equestrian and golf and all, but she goes to their basketball and football and all, so she keeps up with it and sends me stuff.
That's golf?
Yeah, that one with skirts is golf.
No, there's not volleyball.
Yeah, the second one's little, first one's soccer.
I'm like,
It's funny, soccer is a fall sport in college, but it's a spring in high school.
Yeah.
It's weird like that. I don't understand. Okay. Huh? To who?
My mom.
That's good.
It's about a wrap for today, you know?
Well, we're on number 16. GCF on 16 is what? 3B, good. And I might not, it might have taken me longer to get that if I hadn't looked at the choices. The choices, most of them show you a 3, so I tried that. 147 is just a funny looking number to me, but 3B is your GCF, so 12 divided by 3 is 4. And this one will have an A to the 4th. We took the B out. Minus 147 divided by 3 is 49. And then we took one of the B's out, so it's B squared. Now, this is like the bell ringer. This is a difference of squares because they're both perfect squares. So 4A to the 4th is 2A squared. 49B squared is 7B. One gets a plus, one gets a minus. Bring down your 3B.
Hey.
Hey!
Yeah, we did that.
What I didn't do, we didn't finish a couple of classes, so I did them last night, and I left them all in there.
On your beanbag.
Yeah.
Alright, 17. Decide if it's factored or not. We got 2 times m minus 5 plus n times m minus 5. This one's like one we had earlier that Louise liked. They've started factoring it, but they didn't finish because you would take out an m minus 5 and then that would leave you with a 2 plus n. So that would be it factored completely. So that would be a no on number 17. Last page.
You're not even listening. You didn't.
Alright, we got 18. X squared plus 2x plus 9x plus 18. Tells us to factor it by grouping. So group those dudes up. Got an x GCF in the first one, which will leave you with x plus 2. Got a 9 over here, which will leave you with x plus 2. So you got x plus 2 and x plus 9. That's it. B, correctamundo. It's like the bell ringer again. It's a difference of squares. We got what we need there. Looking at 19. 49y to the 4th is a perfect square. And 36 is a perfect square. So that would be 7y squared. The square root of 49y to the 4th. Square root of 36 is 6. One gets a plus. One gets a minus. I like difference of squares. That is D. Alright, we actually had to solve on number 20. Ready? 49t cubed minus 36t. Alright, way we've been solving has been solving by factoring. That left side piece has a GCF. Okay, so I'm going to divide it. It's got t. So I'm going to divide by t. That would leave me with 49t squared minus 36. Now remember, when we get all this factored completely all the way down, we're just going to set all our factors equal to 0. So I've already got one factor. T is equal to 0. So looking through my choices, I already know that it's got to be A or C. Those are the only ones that have 0 in them. Okay, I'm going to take this binomial in there and factor it farther. It's a difference of squares. Square root of 49t squared is 7t. Square root of 36 is 6. Oh, we just had those numbers, didn't we? One gets a plus, one gets a minus. So now I have to solve both of those factors. 7t plus 6 equals 0. Subtract your 6. 7t is negative 6. Divide by 7. And t is negative 6/7. So you know it can't be C. It didn't have that. Go ahead and solve this one over here for you naysayers. Add 6 first on this. 7t is 6 divided by 7. T is 6/7. So we have positive or negative 6/7 and 0.
Can you just look at that power?
Did it had to have 3? Yeah.
At first I didn't know that.
Alright, 21 is a little different one, but it's easy. 21, we've got x minus y, quantity squared, minus 16 times x minus y, plus 64. Alright, it says to factor completely. So this x minus y piece here, that's like if it were just an x squared. They're using x minus y where we've just been using an x. Okay, so if I look at the coefficient of that, it's a 1. There's nothing out in front of that parenthesis, so it's understood 1. Square root of 1 is 1. Square root of 64 is 8. 1 times 8 is half of 16. So this is a perfect square trinomial. So I'm going to have x minus y. Now since this is a minus sign, minus square root of 64. That's it. A.
AAA,
Yep.
3 A's in a row. Is that what you meant when you said 3 A's?
No, but that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
But so now I already told you the answer to 22.
Oh, I know. What was that?
19 was D. Alright, 22. It's an easy solve on it. It says x minus 8 times x plus 3 is equal to 0. It asks you to solve. So you write its opposite signs. Just set it equal to 0. Gets you a positive 8. And a negative 3. Which was 8. Alright, 23 took me a little while.
Me too.
Got lots of scratch work on it, so it's Louise there. It's got 5x plus 34 times x minus 13 equals 4x plus 32 times x minus 14. Alright, we got to solve this, but before we can solve it, we got to get it set equal to 0. Before we can get it set equal to 0, we got to write them in standard form so that we can move stuff around. So that means I have to FOIL both sides of this. Okay, so that would give me 5x squared. I skipped a step on that. I went ahead and 5 times negative 13 and then positive 34. That got me negative 31x. So I skipped writing down what the outer and inner was. And then my last, I've got negative 442. Over here, I got 4x squared. Then on my outer and inner, I got that combined already to negative 24x. And then negative 448. Alright, so I'm going to subtract 4x squared from itself and from its like term. This 24x is being subtracted, so I'm going to add it to itself and to its like term. 448 is being subtracted, so I'm going to add it to itself and to its like term. So it'll get me x squared minus 7x plus 6 is equal to 0. Okay, now finally that's easy to factor. The factors of 6 that add to negative 7 are negative 6 and negative 1. So if x minus 6 equals 0, you get 6. And if x minus 1 is equal to 0, you get 1. Which was C. Two more. Both of them last two are easy. Alright, we ready? 24. 6x times 2x minus 3 minus 5 times 2x minus 3. So they've started the grouping. We're just finishing it up. We got 2x minus 3. We were left with 6x minus 5. That's it. That would be B. And the last one, 25, says x squared plus 25x. Decide if that's factored.
Well, we do not have x and then
Good.
x.
If I were to factor this, I would take an x out. So as it was it factored? No. Alright. Okay, tomorrow, you are taking your test tomorrow. Also tomorrow, I have a meeting in Miss Wolford's office, so I will be there. Just do your test and turn it in.
Who's gonna be our
I
sub?
have no idea.
It was like crazy last time because I didn't even know where the phone number was. Like,
Oh, so you should find
and
out.
so I was like, she handed out the test and I was like, wait, I don't know my phone number. She said, girls, I said be quiet. I was like, I don't know my phone number. Like literally, she was like, yeah,
Who
rude.
was it?
Oh, yeah, that's pretty cool.
I was like, I can't get my test if I don't know my phone
And
number.
after the test, everybody was sending me and she'll be told me that she like